The morning air was sharp and cold. Frost clung to the windows of Buckingham Palace. Inside the grand hall, everything seemed perfect. The chandeliers sparkled. The marble floors gleamed. But something was about to happen that no one expected. Sergeant Oliver Hayes stood at attention near the main corridor. He had been a royal guard for 12 years. He had seen presidents, prime ministers, and celebrities walk these halls. But nothing had prepared him for what he was about to discover. It started with a glint of light. Something caught his eye near the base of a marble pillar. He stepped closer. His boots echoed in the empty hallway. There, lying on the cold stone floor, was a necklace. Not just any necklace. It was elegant, expensive, and clearly important. Oliver bent down and picked it up carefully. The gold chain was delicate. The pendant was a stunning sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. His heart began to race. This wasn't costume jewelry. This was royal property. He looked around. The corridor was empty. No one was nearby. No alarms had gone off. How did this end up here? And more importantly, who did it belong to? Oliver's mind raced through possibilities. He had seen the Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla, wearing something similar just days ago during a state dinner. Could this be hers? If it was, this was serious. Losing royal jewelry was not a small matter. Before you find out what happens next, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss stories like this. Hit that button now. Oliver knew he had to act fast. He couldn't just leave it there. He couldn't pocket it either. That would be the end of his career. He had to report it. But to whom? And what would the consequences be? He wrapped the necklace carefully in his handkerchief and placed it in his jacket pocket. His pulse was loud in his ears. He walked quickly toward the administrative wing. Every step felt heavy. What if someone accused him of stealing it? What if they thought he was involved in something darker? The palace was waking up. Staff members began moving through the hallways. Maids pushed carts. Assistants carried folders. Everyone was busy preparing for the day's events. Oliver kept his head down. He couldn't let anyone see his face right now. He looked too nervous. He reached the office of the master of the household. His hand hovered over the door handle. Should he knock? Should he go higher up the chain? This wasn't protocol. There was no manual for finding royal jewelry on the floor. Before he could decide, footsteps approached from behind. Oliver turned. It was Commander Phillips, the head of palace security. A man with silver hair and a sharp gaze that missed nothing. Hayes, Commander Phillips said. His voice was calm but firm. Is something wrong? Oliver swallowed hard. His throat felt dry. This was it. The moment everything would either go right or completely fall apart. Sir Oliver said quietly, I found something. And I think it belongs to the Duchess. Commander Phillips's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed slightly. Show me. Oliver reached into his pocket. His fingers touched the soft fabric of the handkerchief. He pulled it out slowly and unfolded it. The necklace glittered under the hallway lights. For a moment, Commander Phillips said nothing. He just stared. Then his jaw tightened. Where did you find this? Near the east corridor, sir. On the floor, by the pillar. Commander Phillips looked down the hallway. His mind was clearly working fast. Come with me now. Oliver followed him. His stomach twisted. This wasn't good. The commander wasn't panicking, but there was urgency in his stride. They walked past offices, past staff members, past guards standing at attention. They reached a private office. Commander Phillips opened the door and gestured for Oliver to enter. Inside, the room was quiet, elegant. A large desk sat near the window. Bookshelves lined the walls. Wait here, Commander Phillips said. He took the necklace and left the room. Oliver stood alone. His heart pounded. Minutes felt like hours. What was happening? Was he in trouble? Was someone else? Then he heard voices outside the door. Muffled. Serious. One of them was the commander. The other was a woman's voice. Calm. Controlled. Familiar, the door opened, and Princess Anne walked in. Oliver snapped to attention. His back straightened. His hands locked at his sides. Princess Anne was known for many things. Her work ethic, her no-nonsense attitude, her loyalty to the crown. But she was also known for being direct, brutally honest, and she did not tolerate mistakes. "At ease, Sergeant Hayes," she said. Her voice was measured. She looked at him carefully, not with anger, not with suspicion, but with curiosity. Commander Phillips stood beside her. He held the necklace in his hand. The sapphire caught the light from the window. "You found this?" Princess Anne asked. "Yes, ma'am," Oliver replied. His voice was steady, but his heart was not. "And you brought it directly to the commander?" "Yes, ma'am," she nodded slowly. Her expression was unreadable. She glanced at Commander Phillips, then back at Oliver. "Do you know what this is?" Oliver hesitated. He didn't want to assume. "I believe it belongs to the Duchess of Cornwall, ma'am." Princess Anne's lips pressed into a thin line. She took the necklace from Commander Phillips and examined it closely. She turned it over in her hands. Her fingers traced the chain, the pendant, the clasp. "It does," she said quietly. It was a gift, a very personal one. The room fell silent. Oliver didn't dare move. He barely breathed. Princess Anne looked up at him. "This necklace was given to Camilla by the late Queen. It was one of her favorites. Losing it would have been ... devastating." Oliver felt the weight of those words. This wasn't just expensive jewelry. It was history, sentiment, family. Princess Anne asked. "East Corridor, ma'am." Near the pillar, by the portrait gallery, her brow furrowed. She exchanged a glance with Commander Phillips. Something passed between them, unspoken, tense. "That's nowhere near her quarters," Commander Phillips said. "I know," Princess Anne replied. She handed the necklace back to him, which means someone moved it, or it was taken. Oliver's blood ran cold. Taken? Was she suggesting theft? In the palace? Princess Anne turned to Oliver again. Her gaze was piercing. "Did you see anyone else in that corridor?" "No, ma'am. It was empty." "What time was this?" "Just after 6, ma'am. Early morning patrol." She nodded. Before most of the staff arrived, Commander Phillips stepped forward. "We'll need to review the security footage. See who was in that area overnight," as Princess Anne agreed. "But quietly. I don't want rumors spreading through the palace." Not yet, Oliver understood. A missing necklace could become a scandal. Accusations, distrust among staff. The palace had dealt with enough negative press. This needed to be handled carefully. Princess Anne looked at Oliver one more time. Her expression softened just slightly. "You did the right thing, Sergeant." "Not everyone would have." "Thank you, ma'am. You're dismissed. But say nothing about this. To anyone. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." Oliver saluted and left the room. His legs felt weak as he walked down the hallway. His mind was spinning. The necklace wasn't just lost. It was possibly stolen. And now he was part of something bigger. He returned to his post, but he couldn't focus. Every person who walked past him seemed suspicious. Every sound made him turn. What if someone had been watching him when he found it? What if he was being set up? Hours passed. The palace filled with activity. Tourists gathered outside the gates. Staff rushed through the halls. Everything looked normal, but Oliver knew better. Something was happening behind the scenes then. Just before noon, he received a message. A palisade approached him discreetly. "Sergeant Hayes, Commander Phillips requests your presence. Immediately." Oliver's stomach dropped. He followed the aide through the winding corridors. They didn't go back to the private office. Instead, they went deeper into the palace. To a section Oliver rarely visited, they stopped outside a door. The aide knocked twice and stepped aside. "Enter," a voice called from inside. Oliver opened the door. The room was larger this time, more formal, and sitting at a long table were Princess Anne, Commander Phillips, and someone else, Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall. She looked up as Oliver entered. Her face was calm, but her eyes were red. She had been crying. "Sergeant Hayes," Princess Anne said, "please, sit down." Oliver sat. His hands rested on his knees. He didn't know what to expect. Camilla spoke first. Her voice was soft, fragile. "I'm told you're the one who found my necklace." "Yes, Your Royal Highness." She smiled faintly. "Thank you, truly. That necklace means more to me than I can say." Oliver nodded. He didn't know what else to do. Princess Anne leaned forward. "We've reviewed the security footage, and we found something troubling." Oliver's pulse quickened. Commander Phillips pulled out a tablet and turned it toward Oliver. On the screen was a grainy black and white video. The timestamp read 5:43 a.m., the East Corridor. A figure moved quickly through the frame. It was hard to make out details, but the person was wearing palace staff uniform. "We believe this person took the necklace from the Duchess's chambers," Commander Phillips said, and then dropped it. "Possibly by accident. Possibly in panic." "Do you know who it is?" Oliver asked. Princess Anne's expression darkened. "We do, and that's why we need your help." Oliver stared at the screen. His mind raced. Why would they need his help? He was just a guard. He found the necklace. That was all. Princess Anne stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the palace gardens. Her hands clasped behind her back. "The person we identified," she said slowly, "is someone who has worked here for 8 years. Someone trusted. Someone we never suspected." Camilla wiped her eyes. She looked down at her hands. "Her name is Margaret Thornton," Commander Phillips said. "She's a senior housemaid. She has access to private quarters, including the Duchess's chambers." Oliver felt a chill. He knew Margaret. Not well, but he had seen her around. She was quiet, polite, always kept to herself. Why would she take it? Oliver asked. Princess Anne turned from the window. "That's what we're trying to understand. Theft in the palace is rare. When it happens, it's usually opportunistic. A moment of weakness. But this feels different." Commander Phillips swiped the tablet screen. Another video appeared. This one showed Margaret entering the Duchess's chambers the night before. She carried a laundry basket. She was inside for less than 3 minutes. When she came out, the basket looked the same. But something was different. Her movements were faster, nervous. "She took the necklace around 11 p.m., Commander Phillips explained. "But she didn't leave the palace. She stayed overnight. We believe she was planning to smuggle it out this morning. But something went wrong. She dropped it," Oliver said.
Exactly.
"And you found it before she could retrieve it." Camilla spoke again. Her voice was stronger now. "I don't want her arrested." "Not yet." Princess Anne turned to her. "Camilla, I need to know why," Camilla said firmly. "I need to speak with her. Face to face." Commander Phillips frowned. "Your Royal Highness, that's highly irregular. And possibly unsafe." "I don't care," Camilla replied. "If she wanted to hurt me, she's had years to do so. She took a necklace, not a weapon. There's a reason, and I want to hear it." Princess Anne looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Very well, but we do this carefully. And Sergeant Hayes will be present?" Oliver's eyes widened. "Me, yes," Princess Anne said. "You're already involved. And frankly, you've shown discretion and honor. I trust you," Oliver swallowed. This was beyond anything he'd ever imagined. He was a guard, not an investigator, not a negotiator. But he couldn't refuse. "Not a direct request from Princess Anne?" "When?" Oliver asked. "Now," Commander Phillips said. "Margaret is in the staff quarters. She doesn't know we've identified her yet. We'll bring her to a secure room. You and the Duchess will wait there. I'll be watching from the observation room. If anything goes wrong, we'll intervene immediately." Camilla stood. She straightened her jacket and took a deep breath. "Let's go." They walked through the palace in silence. Oliver's mind was spinning. What would Margaret say? Would she confess? Would she deny everything? And why did Camilla want to face her personally? They arrived at a small private sitting room. It was elegant but simple. 2 chairs, a small table, a mirror on the wall. Oliver realized the mirror was probably two-way glass. Commander Phillips and his team would be watching from the other side. Camilla sat down. She folded her hands in her lap. She looked calm, but Oliver could see the tension in her shoulders. "Stand by the door," Commander Phillips instructed Oliver. "If she makes any sudden moves, step in, but otherwise stay quiet. Let the Duchess lead." Oliver nodded. He took his position near the door. His hand rested near his belt, not on his weapon, just ready. Minutes passed. Then the door opened. Margaret Thornton walked in. She looked tired, confused. When she saw Camilla sitting there, her face went pale. "Your Royal Highness," Margaret stammered. I don't understand. Why am I here?" Camilla gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit down, Margaret." Margaret hesitated. Then she sat. Her hands trembled. Camilla leaned forward slightly. Her voice was soft, kind. "I want you to be honest with me. Can you do that?" Margaret's eyes filled with tears. She nodded. "My necklace," Camilla said. "The one with the sapphire? Do you know where it is?" Margaret's breath hitched. She looked down at her hands. Her shoulders began to shake. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Camilla didn't react. She just waited. Margaret wiped her eyes. Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean to take it. I mean, he did. But I didn't want to. I had no choice." "Explain," Camilla said gently. Margaret took a shaky breath. "My daughter. She's sick. Very sick. She needs surgery. But we don't have the money. The NHS waiting list is too long. She could die before they get to her." Oliver felt his chest tighten. He hadn't expected this. "I tried everything," Margaret continued. "Loans, fundraisers, I even sold my car. But it's not enough. The private hospital wants £20,000 up front. I don't have it." Camilla's expression softened. "So you took the necklace?" Margaret nodded. Tears streamed down her face. I thought if I could sell it, just this once, I could save her. I know it's wrong. I know I betrayed your trust. But she's my little girl. She's only 9 years old." The room was silent. Oliver could hear his own heartbeat. Camilla reached across the table. She placed her hand over Margaret's. "Why didn't you come to me?" Margaret looked up. Her eyes were wide with disbelief. "Come to you?" "Yes. If you needed help, you should have asked." Margaret shook her head. "I couldn't. You're royalty. I'm just staff." "I didn't think you didn't think I would care," Camilla finished. Her voice was firm. "But you were wrong." Margaret stared at Camilla. Her tears fell harder. She couldn't speak. Camilla stood. She walked around the table and knelt beside Margaret's chair. She took both of Margaret's hands in hers. "Tell me about your daughter," Camilla said softly. "What's her name?" "Emma," Margaret whispered. "Her name is Emma. And what does she need?" "Heart surgery. She was born with a defect. It's gotten worse. The doctors say she has maybe 3 months. Maybe less." Camilla's eyes glistened. She squeezed Margaret's hands. "Then we'll make sure she gets it." Margaret's head snapped up. "What? You heard me? Your daughter will have her surgery. I'll see to it personally." Margaret shook her head in disbelief. But I stole from you. I broke the law." "You made a desperate choice out of love," Camilla said. "And yes, it was wrong. But I'm not going to punish a mother for trying to save her child." Oliver watched from the door. His throat felt tight. He had expected anger. Consequences. Not this. Camilla stood and looked at Commander Phillips through the mirror. She knew he was watching. "I want Margaret placed on paid leave. Not suspension, leave. She'll stay with her daughter while we arrange the surgery. And when Emma is recovered, we'll discuss Margaret's future here. But no charges. Do you understand?" There was a pause. Then a voice came through a small speaker in the room. "Commander Phillips." "Understood, Your Royal Highness." Margaret broke down completely. She covered her face with her hands and sobbed. "Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't deserve this." Camilla knelt again. She pulled Margaret into a gentle embrace. "You deserve compassion. We all do." Oliver felt something shift inside him. He had worked in the palace for years. He had seen ceremony, protocol, tradition. But this was different. This was human. After a few moments, Camilla stood. She helped Margaret to her feet.
I'll go home.
Be with Emma. Someone from my office will contact you tomorrow with the details. Margaret nodded. She could barely stand. Commander Phillips entered the room and gently guided her out. She looked back at Camilla one more time. Her eyes were filled with gratitude, and then she was gone. The room was quiet. Camilla stood in the center, her arms wrapped around herself. She looked smaller somehow. Vulnerable, Your Royal Highness, Oliver said carefully. That was incredibly kind. Camilla turned to him. She smiled faintly. It was the right thing to do. Not everyone would see it that way. Perhaps not. But I do. She walked toward the door, then stopped. She looked back at Oliver. You could have kept that necklace, Sergeant Hayes. Sold it yourself. No one would have known. Oliver shook his head. That's not who I am, ma'am. I know, Camilla said. That's why I'm grateful you were the one who found it. Oh, she left the room. Oliver stood alone for a moment. He exhaled slowly. The weight of the morning settled on him. Commander Phillips returned. He looked at Oliver with something close to respect. You handled that well. I didn't do anything, sir. You did more than you think. You stayed calm. You stayed professional. And you kept this quiet. That matters. Lever nodded. Will Margaret really be allowed to stay? If the Duchess says so, then yes. She has more authority than people realize. They walked back through the palace together. Staff were still bustling about. The daily routines continued. But Oliver felt different. He had seen something few people ever did. The private side of royalty, the human side. That evening, Oliver returned to his quarters. He sat on his bed and stared at the wall. His phone buzzed. A message from his mother. She was asking how his day was. He typed back, just another day at work. But it wasn't. It was a day he would never forget. The next morning, Oliver was back on duty. He stood in the same corridor where he had found the necklace. The palace was quiet again, peaceful. Then he heard footsteps. He turned. Princess Anne was walking toward him. She was alone. No aides. No security detail. Just her, Sergeant Hayes, she said. Your Royal Highness stood at attention. Walk with me. To walk. They walked side by side through the corridor. Princess Anne's pace was steady, confident. You've caused quite a stir, she said. Oliver's heart sank. Ma'am. In a good way. Camilla told me what you said to her. About kindness? Oliver didn't know what to say. Princess Anne stopped and faced him. The palace is full of people who follow rules, who do their jobs, but very few truly understand what service means. You do? I just did what was right, ma'am. Exactly. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small box. She handed it to him. This is for you. Oliver opened it carefully. Inside was a medal, the Royal Victorian Medal. It was given for personal service to the monarch. I don't understand, Oliver said. I didn't do anything extraordinary. I did something honest, Princess Anne replied. In a world where that's becoming rare, I'd say that's quite extraordinary. Oliver looked at the medal. His hands trembled slightly. There's one more thing, Princess Anne said. She pulled out an envelope. This is from Camilla. She wanted you to have it. Oliver took the envelope. He opened it. Inside was a handwritten note. It read, Sergeant Hayes, thank you for your integrity. Because of you, a little girl will live. That is no small thing. I am forever grateful. With sincere appreciation, Camilla Oliver's eyes stung. He folded the note carefully and placed it back in the envelope. She means it, Princess Anne said. And so do I. Thank you, ma'am. Princess Anne nodded. Carry on, Sergeant. She turned and walked away. Her footsteps echoed down the corridor. Oliver stood alone again. But he didn't feel alone. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Not in himself, but in what he represented. Duty, honor, compassion, and he realized that was what truly mattered. 3 weeks passed. Oliver returned to his regular duties. The palace moved on. But the story didn't end there. One afternoon, Oliver received another summons. This time it wasn't urgent. It was a simple request. The Duchess wished to see him. He was to meet her in the rose garden. Oliver walked through the palace grounds. The gardens were in full bloom. The air smelled of fresh flowers. Birds sang in the trees. It was peaceful. Calm, he found Camilla sitting on a stone bench near the fountain. She was alone. No security, no staff. Just her. "Sergeant Hayes," she said warmly. "Thank you for coming." "Of course, Your Royal Highness." She gestured to the bench beside her. "Please, sit." Oliver hesitated. It felt strange, informal, but he sat. Camilla looked out at the roses. Her expression was soft, content. "I wanted to tell you something. Emma had her surgery last week." Oliver's chest lifted. "How is she?" "She's recovering beautifully. The doctors say she'll make a full recovery." Relief washed over him. "That's wonderful news." "'Tis," Camilla agreed. "And it wouldn't have happened without you." Oliver shook his head. "I just found the necklace, ma'am." "You did the rest. You did more than that. You reminded me why I'm here." "Why any of us are here." Oliver didn't understand. Camilla turned to him. "It's easy to forget, you know? When you live in a palace, when you're surrounded by protocol and tradition, you forget that real people are depending on you, that your choices matter. You reminded me of that." Oliver felt humbled. "I'm glad I could help, ma'am." Camilla smiled. "Margaret is returning to work next week. She's been cleared of all charges. We've also set up a fund for staff members who face medical emergencies, so no one else has to make the choice she did." Oliver's throat tightened. "That's incredible." "It's necessary," Camilla said. "And it's the least we can do." They sat in silence for a moment. The fountain bubbled softly. The wind rustled the rose bushes. "There's something else," Camilla said. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small velvet box. She handed it to Oliver. "I want you to have this." Oliver opened it carefully. Inside was the necklace. The sapphire sparkled in the sunlight. "Ma'am, I can't. It's not the original," Camilla said quickly. "I had a replica made. The real one is locked away safely. But I wanted you to have this. As a reminder of what? That doing the right thing always matters, even when no one is watching." Oliver looked at the necklace. He felt its weight in his hands. It wasn't about the value. It was about what it represented: integrity, compassion, humanity. "Thank you, ma'am," he said quietly. "I'll treasure it." Camilla stood. Oliver stood with her. She extended her hand. He shook it. "Thank you, Sergeant Hayes, for everything." "It was an honor, Your Royal Highness." She walked away slowly. Her figure disappeared into the palace. Oliver stood alone in the garden. He closed the velvet box and held it close. He thought about Margaret, about Emma, about the chain of events that started with one simple choice: to do the right thing, and he realized that sometimes the smallest actions create the biggest ripples. That evening, Oliver sat in his quarters again. He opened the velvet box and looked at the replica necklace. It gleamed under the lamplight. He thought about everything that had happened: the fear, the tension, the resolution. But most of all, he thought about the look on Margaret's face when Camilla told her Emma would be saved. That moment. That pure, unfiltered relief and gratitude. That was worth more than any medal, any recognition. Oliver placed the necklace on his desk. He would keep it there. A reminder. Not just for himself, but for anyone who doubted that kindness still existed in the world. The next morning, Oliver was back on duty. He stood in the East Corridor, the same place where everything began. A young recruit walked past him. Nervous, new. "Excuse me, Sergeant," the recruit said. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. How do you do it?" "Stay focused. Stay disciplined." After all these years, Oliver thought for a moment. Then he smiled. "You remember why you're here. You remember who you're serving. And you remember that every small choice you make matters, even the ones no one sees. The recruit nodded. Thank you, sir. He walked away. Oliver watched him go, and he felt it again. That sense of purpose, that sense of pride. He had been tested, and he had passed. Not because he was perfect, but because he chose to be honest, even when it would have been easier not to. And that, he realized, was the true meaning of service. Weeks turned into months. Life at the palace returned to normal, but Oliver never forgot, and neither did Camilla, or Margaret, or Princess Anne. They had all been changed by that morning, by that necklace, by that choice, and sometimes late at night, when Oliver walked the quiet corridors of Buckingham Palace, he would pass by the East Corridor. He would glance at the marble pillar, and he would remember the day he found more than a necklace. The day he found proof that compassion still lived in the world, and that, he thought, was worth protecting. 6 months later, the palace hosted a private ceremony. It wasn't announced to the public. No press were invited. It was small, intimate, personal. Oliver stood in the stateroom. He wore his dress uniform. The Royal Victorian Medal gleamed on his chest. Around him were other palace staff members, people he had worked with for years, people he trusted. At the front of the room stood Princess Anne. Beside her was Camilla, and next to Camilla was a young girl. She had bright eyes and a wide smile. Emma. Oliver's heart swelled when he saw her. She looked healthy, happy, alive. Princess Anne stepped forward. Today, we gather not for ceremony, but for gratitude. 6 months ago, an act of integrity set off a chain of events that changed lives. It reminded us that compassion is not weakness. It is strength. She looked directly at Oliver. Sergeant Hayes, would you please step forward? Oliver walked to the front of the room. His legs felt steady. His mind was clear. Princess Anne continued. Your actions exemplified the values we hold most dear. Honesty, duty, compassion. Because of you. A little girl is standing here today. Because of you, a mother did not lose hope. And because of you, this palace became a place of mercy, not just tradition. Camilla stepped forward. She held a framed certificate. This is a commendation from the royal household. It will be placed in the official records. Your name, your deed, your legacy. She handed it to Oliver. He took it carefully. His hands didn't shake this time. Then Emma stepped forward. She held a small bouquet of flowers, roses, white and pink. She looked up at Oliver with shy admiration. Thank you, she said softly. My mom told me you helped save my life. Oliver knelt down so he was eye level with her. Your mom saved your life. She never gave up on you. I just found something she lost. Emma smiled. But you gave it back. That's what heroes do. Oliver's eyes burned. He took the flowers from her. Thank you, Emma. You're very brave. She hugged him. It was quick, innocent, pure. When she stepped back, Oliver stood. He looked at Margaret. She was crying, but she was smiling too. Thank you, Margaret, mouthed Oliver, nodded. Princess Anne spoke again. We've also established the Emma Fund. It will provide financial assistance to any palace. Staff member facing medical emergencies, so that no one has to make an impossible choice ever again. Applause filled the room. It was warm, genuine. Oliver felt the weight of it all. Not as a burden, but as a gift. After the ceremony, people mingled. Staff members congratulated Oliver. Some shook his hand. Others patted his back. It felt surreal. He was still just a guard. Still just a man doing his job. But somehow, he had become something more. Camilla approached him one last time. I hear you're being promoted. Oliver blinked. Promoted? Commander Phillips recommended you for officer training. Princess Anne approved it. Oliver was speechless. Camilla smiled. You've earned it. Use it well. I will, ma'am. I promise. She nodded. I know you will. As the evening wound down, Oliver stood near the window. He looked out at the palace grounds, the lights, the gardens, the history he thought about his father, a man who had taught him to always do what was right. Even when it was hard, even when no one was watching, his father had passed away years ago. But Oliver felt him there, in that moment, proud. "Quite a day," a voice said. Oliver turned. It was Commander Phillips. "Yes, sir." Phillips stood beside him. "You know, I've worked here for 30 years. I've seen a lot of people come and go, but very few leave a mark. You did." "I didn't mean to, sir. That's what makes it genuine." Phillips looked at him seriously. "When you become an officer, you'll face harder choices. More pressure, more responsibility. But if you remember what you did here, you'll be fine."
Ow.
"What did I do, sir?" Phillips smiled faintly. "You stayed human." They stood in silence. The palace felt different now. Not colder, not distant, but warmer. More alive. A few days later, Oliver received a letter. It was postmarked from a hospital. He opened it carefully. Inside was a drawing. Crayon. Simple. A stick figure in a uniform. A girl holding flowers. A sun shining above them. At the bottom, in a child's handwriting, it read, "Thank you, Sergeant Hayes. You are my hero. Love, Emma." Oliver pinned it to the wall in his quarters, right next to the replica necklace, right next to the commendation. And every morning when he woke up, he looked at them. And he remembered why he served. Not for glory, not for recognition, but because small acts of kindness can change everything. Years passed. Oliver rose through the ranks. He became an officer, then a commander. He trained new recruits. He protected royalty. He served with honor. But no matter how high he climbed, he never forgot that morning. The necklace, the choice, the lives that were changed. And whenever a young recruit asked him for advice, he would tell them the same thing. Even when no one is watching, even when it's hard, because you never know who you might save. And that, he believed, was the truest form of service on a cold December morning.
Gosh.
Many years later, Oliver stood in the same east corridor. He was older now, gray hair, lines on his face, but his eyes were still sharp, his stance still strong. A young guard approached him, nervous, holding something in his hand. "I found this. I think it's important." Oliver looked down. It was a bracelet, silver, elegant. He smiled. "Then let's make sure it gets back to its owner." The young guard nodded. Oliver walked with him, just like Commander Phillips had once walked with him. The cycle continued. The values remained. And somewhere in the palace, a necklace replica sat in a glass case. A reminder, symbol, the story of a guard who chose integrity over ease, compassion over indifference, humanity over protocol, and the palace, with all its grandeur and tradition, became a little more human because of it. That was the legacy Oliver left behind, not in medals or promotions, but in the hearts of those who learned from him, and in the life of a little girl named Emma, who grew up knowing that kindness still existed in the world, because one man chose to do the right thing.